Hello and welcome to our nightly streaming. Today is Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, and we are on Chapter 8 of A Wanderer in the Spirit Land. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe, hit the bell so you can be notified when we live stream, which will be Sundays and Tuesdays, and notified of any uploads. We try to do 3 or 4 uploads, as part of our live stream per week. So we always try and give you more information on Spiritism. Please share, please comment. While I am talking, please give me comments. So the Wanderer in the Spirit Land. Remember, it's been a while. We were talking about the spirit Franchezzo, who was a very cultured and educated person, not very spiritual, raised Catholic, but saw too much, hypocritical behavior. But then he kind of used women, but then he found the love of his life, and then he died suddenly. And he went through very horrible time in the lower zone. But then the beautiful woman that he loved kept trying to speak out to him and helped him get the courage to rise up out of the lower zone and out of the dark abyss into the lower zone. So he's not in heaven yet, but he's getting close, and he's in a place where he is in an outpost, where he is part of a group of spirits that are helping other spirits in the lower zone. So, also before I begin, please visit nwspiritism.com to get more information. I have a free PDF called Spiritism 101, the Third Revelation. You can download it for free. I also have the whole Spirits book in MP3 format and also in Audible format. So the more you want to learn about Spiritism, it's all there on Spiritism.com, and there are links below. So let's start in the wonderful book of, and of course, I have a link to read this book too. It's a PDF. And I have a link below that also points where you can download this PDF. So we are on Chapter 8, Temptation. I was again called upon to go to earth upon a mission of help and to leave for a time my wanderings in the spirit spheres. And now it was that the greatest and most terrible temptation of my life came to me. In the course of my work, I was brought across one still in the earth body, whose influence over my earthly life had done more than aught else to wreck and spoil it. And though I had not been blameless, far indeed from it, but I could not feel an intense bitterness and thirst for revenge whenever I thought of this person and all of the wrongs that I had suffered. Wrongs brooded over till at times I felt as if my feelings must have vent in some wild burst of passionate resentment. Now that's a very enlightening paragraph, because it really shows us what Jesus said, is that we need to forgive 70 times 70. And that is very important, because that is, that, of course, we all have had that. I still, today I lost my temper, which just made me sad that I can't control myself. But we need to really let go of all that that material stuff. There's people, I bet you his friend was there on purpose, to give him these temptations and do things, because he'd done that to another in a previous life. So you have to look at these people as just actors in a play and not blame them for what they did wrong to you. They're probably just paying back what you did to somebody else. And of course, they'll have to pay their own set of karma. A reaction has a reaction in their next life. So in my wanderings upon the earth plane, I had learned many ways in which the spirit can still work mischief to those he hates, who are yet still in the flesh. Far more power is ours than you would dream of, but I feel it is wiser to let the veil rest still upon the possibility the world holds even after death for the revengeful spirit. I could detail many terrible cases I know of having actually taken place, mysterious murders, strange crimes committed, none knew why or how, by those on earth whose brains were so disordered that they were not themselves responsible for their actions and were but the tools of a possessing spirit. Now, this is all true. In fact, it's written in many spiritist literature how people, if they look, if you don't follow your conscience and you don't, and you don't try and follow the good path, the light path, they will take advantage of your baser emotions, and they will find out what type of personality you are. Do you love money? Do you have revenge? And then they'll amplify those primitive emotions, and then give you suggestions of how, to extract revenge or get more money, even though by you're cheating people or hurting people emotionally. They will use that. They can't like murder you, directly. What they'll do is, and of course the key here is the brains were so disordered, they will amplify your own bad vibrations until they're, and this is, and you'll see this a lot in mental illnesses, not all. And of course, if anyone has a mental illness, you'll see your doctor, psychiatrist, or psychologist. But a lot of that are spirits that are trying to deliberately make your life hell on earth. Because why? Because you did something to them in a previous life, and they think that all they are doing is they're just extracting justice for what you did. They should let the spirit world teach you what you need to be taught in your curriculum on earth. They will take care of anything. If you're a spirit listening to this, you don't need to do this. The spirit world will take care of all of that. Let Jesus and his minions, right, all his wonderful, loving ministers, decide how to teach each one of us what we did wrong. I know I've been taught in this life a lot of what I've been wrong. So these and many kindred things are known to us in the spirit spheres, where circumstances often wear a very different aspect from the one shown to you. The old beliefs in demoniacal possessions were not so visionary after all. Only these demons or devils had themselves been once the denizens of earth. And that is true. Again, when people say Satan or the devil, Spiritism says there is no things as demon, Satan, or devil. There's no creature that was created for evil and that will be evil for eternity. No, there are only spirits on earth who are ignorant. I don't want to call them evil or bad per se, but they're ignorant and they're doing things that they shouldn't do. They don't understand. It's like being blind. And their blindness is they don't have the love. They don't let the love in so they can understand better how they should act and how their personality and character should be. So these people will not always be in the dark abyss or below. They will be in that position until they decide themselves that they want to be better, and they will at some time. Because how does the spirit world fight evil, right? It's not like our movies where someone comes in there with a shotgun or a machine gun and kills all the bad guys, because everyone's immortal. You kill a bad guy, they just go back to where they were. They're a spirit. No, they use these people who treat people terrible. Well, guess what? Spirit world uses evil to fight evil. So these people go into areas where there are people just like them. And then they find out like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like people treating me as I treat them. Kind of the opposite of the golden rule. You're treated as you treat others, and good or bad. Now carry on. It so happened to me then that when I came once more after long years of absence across this person whom I so hated, my old feelings of suffering and anger revived, but with tenfold more force than is possible in earth life. For a spirit has far, far greater capabilities of suffering or enjoyments of pleasure or pain, love or hate, than one whose senses are still veiled and deadened by the earthly envelope, and thus all the senses of a disembodied spirit are tenfold more acute. Again, this is backed up by Spiritism. In fact, what Spiritism says is that we only see 1/8. He says tenfold, but close enough. We see and sense and smell and acknowledge only about 1/8 of the world around us. We are in our dense earthly envelope, as Franchezzo says. And it's all for a reason, is we're not allowed to wander too far, because why are we on earth? We're on earth to correct our personality and our character for the good. Thus, when I once more found myself beside this person, the desire for my long suspended revenge woke again. With the desire, a most devilish plan for its accomplishment suggested itself to me. For my desire of vengeance drew up to me from their haunts in the lowest hell spirits of so black a hue, so awful a type, that never before I had seen such beings or dreamed that out of some nightmare fable they could exist. These beings cannot live upon the earth plane, nor even in the lower spheres surrounding it, unless there be congenital mortals or some strong magnetic attraction to hold them there for a time. And though they often rise in response to an intensely evil desire on the part of either a mortal or a spirit on the earth plane, yet they cannot remain long. And the moment the attracting force becomes weakened, like a rope that breaks, they lose their hold and sink down again to their own dark abodes. Again, this is true. These people have sunk so low that they have to kind of be called up. The power of our minds is much stronger than people think it is. And yet, again, on Earth, it's like, most people can't move objects with their mind or do things. But the mind is so powerful in the spirit, Franchezzo's in the spirit form. His thoughts go out everywhere, right? So these people down below in this dark abyss pick them up and they go, oh, let's go help this guy get his revenge, because they want to help people become less to the light, right? They want them to become petty and revengeful because, like attracts like, and misery loves company. They're not nice people. They will be eventually, but they're not at this moment. At times of great popular indignation and anger, as in some great revolt of oppressed peoples, in whom all senses but that of suffering and anger has been crushed out, the bitter wrath and thirst for revenge felt by the oppressed will draw around them such a cloud of these dark beings that horrors similar to those witnessed in the great French Revolution and kindred revolts of downtrodden people will take place, and the maddened populace are for a time completely under the control of those spirits who are truly as devils. Now, this was written before actually World War I, but this same thing happened in the 20th century in World War I and World War II. There are so many people so mad that, in fact, what we were told is that some of the other planets that hold spirits told Earth they had to put like the shield around it because we were emanating such primitive, dark emotion that it was affecting other planets in our solar system as far as the spirits on these, in these areas of heaven, even in the different dimensions that are just thirst for revenge and hatred and anger was just going out all over because our thoughts all go. So this is a collective mass of just dark emotions. And so, yes, this has been told also by Spiritism. In my case, these horrible beings crowded round me with delight, whispered in my ears, and pointed out a way of revenge so simple and yet so horrible, so appalling in its wickedness, that I shall not venture to write it down, lest the idea of it might be given to some other desperate one, like a seed falling into a fruitful soil, bringing forth its baleful blossoms. At any other time, I should have shrunk back in horror from these beings and their foul suggestions. Now, in my mad passion, I welcomed them and was about to invoke their aid to help me accomplish my vengeance, when, like the tones of a silver bell, there fell upon my ears the voice of my beloved, to whose pleadings I was never deaf, and whose tones could move me as none else could. The voice summoned me to come to her by all that we both held sacred, by all the vows we had made, and all the hopes we had cherished. And though I could not so instantly abandon my revenge, yet I was drawn as by a rope to the one I loved from the one I hated. So, hopefully love is overcoming hate. So, and now again, and this is very interesting, next paragraph. And yet the whole wild crew of black devils came with me, clinging to me, trying to hold me back, yet with an even feebler hold as the voice of love and purity and truth penetrated more and more deeply to my heart. And of course, we see this play out everywhere in our culture today, where the voice of goodness is, the spirits try to stop you from becoming more spiritual. They try and stop you from helping people. They try and stop you from being nice and caring and, and trying to fight against this cancel culture and this horrible, lack of freedom of speech that we have now, and these people doing all sorts of really horrible things in their quest for power. And anyone who tries to stop them is going to be spiritually attacked. Because why? Why are they? Well, I've said before, they like to sow chaos and and keep people ignorant and not spiritually mature. But there's another even more foundational reason is we are the earth in a planet of atonement, but we are now beginning the transformation to a planet of regeneration. In a planet of regeneration, these spirits who have not improved themselves will not be on the earth. Therefore, in a planet of regeneration, you're not going to have all sorts of spirits around you telling you bad things, telling you stupid, ignorant things. You're only going to have good spirits around you when you want them. The bad spirits, or the ignorant spirits, I should say, will be sent to another planet. And if they're sent to another planet, who knows what power structure they have? It's just like, a prison gang being sent to other prisons and being dispersed. Well, their power is gone. Now they have to, accommodate themselves to the powers that be in these other prisons. The same thing with these spirits. So they're really fighting us becoming a planet of regeneration. And then I'll carry on. And then I saw my beloved standing in her room, her arms stretched out to draw me to her, and two strong spirit guardians by her side, while around her was a circle of flaming silver light, as though a wall of lightning encircled her. Yet at her call I passed through it and stood at her side. The dark crowd sought to follow, but were kept back by the flaming ring. One of the boldest made a rush at me as I passed through and tried to catch hold, but his hand and arm were caught by the flame of light and shriveled up as though thrust into a furnace. With a yell of pain and rage, he drew back amidst a wild howl of derisive laughter from the rest. Again, this is during spiritist meetings, and when you have mediums meetings, the spirits who are controlling the meeting, the good spirits, will place a protective shield around the mediums meeting, and they only let spirits in who they want to be allowed to. And these spirits are, a lot of times are in really bad shape, and they're very primitive, and they're in pain, and some are quite mean. But they don't let all of them in. They control the environment with their magnetic power. And again, this is exactly what they're doing here. They're controlling that environment. Say, no, okay, you guys aren't allowed in. Sorry, and you have no power, right? A high spirit, if the high spirit is in contention with a lower spirit, there is no fight. It's like a 5-year-old trying to punch a 30-year-old man, right? That they won't even feel it. So again, this happens, and then they said then everyone else laughed. So again, this is typical of the lower realms and the dark abyss, where everyone takes pleasure in other people's pain. Do you want to be with those people? I don't think so. With all the power of her love, my darling pleaded with me that I should give up this terrible idea and promise her never more to yield to so base a thought. Now, she is a wonderful person. She asked me if I loved my revenge so much better than I loved her, that to gratify it I would raise up between us the insurmountable barrier of my meditated crime. Was her love indeed so little to me after all? So it happens. She was notified by her guardian spirits and his guardian spirit, unbeknownst to him, that he was thinking of this stupid idea of trying to get revenge. And they notified her. And so this is how the spirit world works. They'll use other people. They won't tell you directly because you'll probably ignore them, right? And you'll just think it's a small voice in your mind. It's just like how all of us kind of try to ignore our conscience. We try to rationalize away why we can do something that we shouldn't do. So that's how they handled him. At first I could not yield, but at last she began to weep. And then my heart melted as though her tears had been warm drops of her heart's blood falling on it to thaw its ice. And in bitter anguish of soul that I should have caused her to shed tears, I knelt at her feet and prayed to be forgiven my wicked thought, prayed that I still might be left with her love to cheer me, still with her for my one thought, my one hope, my all. As I prayed, the circle of dark spirits who had been fighting to get in and beckoning to me and trying to draw me out broke like a cloud of black mist when the wind scatters it, and they sank down away to their own abode again, while I sank exhausted at my darling's feet. So again, this just shows you how powerful, especially in the spirit world, the mind is, right? Remember, when you're on earth, you're very well, you kind of, you've got blinkers on, the world is a objective place. A wall is a wall, but in the spirit world, it's more subjective. Your mind really controls your environment, and this is, he got rid of all that hatred and plans for revenge, and that just broke the contact with these inferior spirits. At times after this, I saw the dark spirits draw near to me, though never again could they come close, for I had an armor in my darling's love, and my promise to her, which was proof against all their attacks. So that is the end of chapter 8. So we had a kind of a short meeting today, but I hope that was very interesting to many people. Now, if you want to know more about Spiritism, please read the book, the Spirits book. You can get this in PDF. And again, as I said before, I have it on YouTube. You can listen to every chapter. I have every chapter. I also have it in MP3 on my website, nwspiritism.com. Let me bring that title up. There we go. Oh, wait, it didn't work. Okay. Well, anyway, it's at nwspiritism.com. I have that in audible version 2 and MP3. I also have my book. Let me bring that book up, which is Spiritism 101, the Third Revelation. It's in PDF. Now, it's also in Kindle, in Audible, and in paperback, but in PDF, totally free. Download it, share it with your friends. It's a good introduction to Spiritism. So those are wonderful vehicles. First, to look at, to explore Spiritism and decide to understand the spirit world around you. And then I would say, if you really want to start getting into Spiritism and understand heaven, Jesus Christ, the lower zone, the dark abyss, read my book, Heaven and Below, Book 1 of Spiritism, the Spirit World Revealed to an Anglican Vicar. That will start introducing you to what is the spirit world, how it affects us. And then my second book is Spirits and the Spirit's Universe, which is, what is the spirit? How do you live as a spirit in the spirit universe? Because when you die, you don't die, you're immortal. You'll live life after life, learning how to become a better person. Your goal on living life after life is to become a perfect spirit. That is someone who's always calm, loving, service to others in any circumstance. Jesus Christ is a perfect spirit. If you want to know what a perfect spirit is, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is like the governor, the CEO of earth and the heavens around the earth and other planets besides. But he is our shining example of how we should act. And then lastly, is the third book in this series, is how we are guided by spirits. And this one tells you more of how your guardian angel, how you personally are guided, how your whole nation and cultures and the whole history of the world is affected and guided by the spirit realm. We are on the campus. We are closely watched. It's amazing how closely watched we are, but we are. Anyway, I want to say God bless everybody, and please subscribe, hit the bell, please hit the like. That's very important for the algorithm now, especially YouTube's changing. And I'm also on Rumble and BitChute, in case YouTube censors us, because that's what they've been doing to many people lately. So again, please look at me on alternate venues. So anyway, I want to say God bless and good night.